So how did all this begin? Was it with a club and a whisper? Or were these roots planted long ago? They said we couldn't. And Matt, Nick, and I said we could. And with All In, there was a satisfaction in proving people wrong. And then enter Kenny Omega, the Khan family, All Elite Wrestling. And the fans said that we could. And there was an equal satisfaction in proving people right. So what happens now? Plain and simple. Wrestling fans and wrestlers alike have an opportunity to take back their space. Recently, there were some very public comments made about us where we were referred to as blood and guts. Blood and guts. And it was said with such a braggart candor that you would think the person saying it felt that they were bulletproof. But I wonder, before they said it, if they tasted their own words before they spit them out, because the entirety of our business is built on blood and guts. Every man or woman who ever stepped foot in the ring, regardless of race, color, creed, political affiliation, sexual identity, has felt blood and guts and passion. Because if we don't care, they don't care. So if you say we're blood and guts, I say you bet your ass we're blood and guts. Wrestling returns to TNT after 18 years, 18 long years. So I ask you once again, not us, who? Not now, when? So join us for history. October 2nd, Washington, D.C., the Capital One Arena. We need you now more than ever. I'm all in. Are you?
We call ourselves the Elite.
Better than you, and you know it.
If not us, who? And if not now, when? We don't care about race or gender or sex or religion. If you're an elite athlete, we want you. Change the world.
We are going to change the whole universe!
This is what you call a paradigm shift.
He saw what wrestling was and realized what it could be.
All Elite Wrestling!
For the 20th time, it's Monday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for the next chapter of the only professional wrestling podcast that is changing the world every week. This is Seeing the Elite, an AEW podcast. I am your host, Bryce Reed. I am joined by my friend, my co-host, my tag team partner, Mr. Jonathan Davis.
How's it going, buddy?
We are just 4 weeks away from Chicago, just 4 weeks away from All Out. And what a massive week of AEW news we have ahead with everything that's gone on. Huge sellouts for TV, huge matches announced for TV. Everything's kind of falling into place for what we're going to see for the rest of the year. This monumental sort of rookie year for this organization. Additionally, we're going to talk a little bit about TRIPLEMANIA, though not a lot, because some things happened and not a lot of other things did. But beyond that, man, just a huge week with a whole lot of stuff going on, including new signings and all that. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Jonathan and I are two friends, fans, lovers of professional wrestling who are here every single Monday morning with all the latest news from All Elite Wrestling. This is not a sports entertainment show. It's an entertaining sports show supported by fans like you from all over the world on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars, just like Meltzer, because it makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
It makes us feel too sweet, buddy.
Too sweet, my friend. Too sweet. Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite if you want to stay updated with episodes through Facebook. You can get us on Twitter at Seeing the Elite, but if you really want to be part of the crew, if you really want to be part of the family, if you really want to be part of the revolution, tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite. Get into our Discord server, talk with awesome AEW fans from all over the world and us. Discuss AEW news as soon as it happens. We're all talking about it, and we talked about TRIPLEMANIA as it was happening last night. As always, JD is on the time codes if you're looking for something specific. Everything else, we're going to get right into it. We're going to start, as we usually do, with a quote. Quote, you guys heard the term, as you talk about wrestling, you guys have heard the term casual fan, right? How are they going to get the casual fan? The term casual fan, honestly, I think I throw up in my mouth a little bit every time that I hear it, because it's this vernacular to describe wrestling like it's based on the Monday Night Wars. When the Monday Night Wars are over, as in they're not a thing, as in they're not happening now in the present, what's happening in the present is that we can't determine what it is. It's something that history will only be able to tell us. So my focus always is the base that built AEW. That base, if you've seen it, you get it. If you haven't seen it, then it's something that you have to see and feel. Bully Ray knows what I'm talking about, because there's a lot of confidence that sometimes can get misplaced for arrogance from my behalf, from the Elite's behalf. I've seen the power of the AEW base. I've seen it, and that's why I want to focus on them first and foremost. There are people who are critical of what AEW does, and instead of signal boosting that, I'd rather the hundreds of fans that we have in that base than the one salty son of a bitch that's not coming on board anyways, if that makes any sense. You know, the first way to fail is to try and please everybody. But I got to take care of the people that brought us to the dance in the first place, and I think that'll be appealing on a global level. I genuinely do. Cody Rhodes with that quote, and I wanted to bring it up at the beginning of the show because I think it is wise beyond years in a way that TV executives and the people who are running the other companies right now will never really understand, and that's that if you create something deep that appeals to your base and rewards the viewer for being as passionate and involved as they can be, casual viewers are going to pick up on that as long as they can get access to it, right? We always said when we were doing Podcast Underground that the biggest thing that was killing that show was not the quality of the product. And if you go back and watch that show, I fucking defy you to disagree with me. The quality of the product was not the problem. The distribution of the product was the problem. AEW's distribution, not a fucking problem. So if you create something that like Lucha Underground rewards the viewer for paying attention, rewards the viewer for keeping track of details and wanting to be really into the subtext and really into the product, then you are going to capture casual fans, but they're not going to stay casual very long. And this idea of let's forego the people who are super passionate because we've already got them to try and capture more casual fan base, I just don't know if that works in this day and age of hyper fandom and so many choices. I think it's really wise and really sort of a young perspective to go like, no, let's create something deep that enriches the viewer. Like Game of Thrones. Do they make sacrifices so that other people can understand it? Sure. Is it as deep and nerdy as maybe the books are? No. But it's not stupid until you get to the last season, right? It's not dumbed down so that somebody who's watching for the first time is instantly going to know everything that's going on. No. It says, hey, we're going to show you some cool things, and then you're going to go, oh, fuck, I need to go get the other seasons.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, Jonathan, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of me stop ranting about it and you kind of talk about this sort of idea.
Yeah, I mean, I read this whole quote and I was just like, it's exactly the way I think about it. Is like, you have so many people out here who are, calling this, this is a renewal of the Monday Night Wars. It's a renewal of the Monday Night Wars. Like, no, it's not. Yes, this is going to be a war, but that's only because one of the parties said before anything ever started, like, oh yeah, if you're doing this, you're going to war with us. So the second party is like, okay.
You don't understand. They're personally taking food off of Seth Rollins' table.
Yeah, they sure are, because he needs to seriously read what he is being told to say, because it makes no goddamn sense. But yeah, there's this whole mentality like of a war, and the war was started by one company, and the company on the receiving end of that was like, okay, cool, I guess we're doing this. They had no intentions of starting a war. They were just going to be another company there are 15 or 30 of. So there aren't going to be Monday Night Wars. It's going to be a set of fans, and that's what's going to watch. I do agree there's no point in trying to find those salty former fans. Why should you? That's how you end up with shit that doesn't make sense and calling back 100 people that no one's seen in 15 years. So no, they should focus on the people and the fans that are invested and have proven they are invested, and the casual fans, because a lot of the people who are invested and the casual fans, that's an overlap there. Why try and find this 1% of the crowd who's going to call out and judge every decision you make for no reason other than to just be salty to appease them?
Yeah, I think WWE being responsible for all of this, I think Vince understood from the outset that AEW is a golem, a sort of enemy of their own creation, right? And I think Vince, for all his faults, understand that it really wouldn't take that much. I mean, really, as soon as they got the TNT deal, then it was like, well, we have to try to fight them, because if it's we're not competition, we're just the alternative, it's not going to be difficult for them to create a more competent product than the product that we're creating right now.
Essentially, yes.
So this war thing that they talk about, and then apparently planning to put NXT on TV now on FS1 on Wednesday nights opposite, right, or whatever. It all seems like them intentionally trying to distract AEW from the goal, because they know if AEW just shoots for their goal of creating great, more accessible, less asinine wrestling product, that it's not really going to be a contest, right? WWE wants them to take them on. Now, I'm not one of these guys who gets on the internet and goes, "Oh, stop taking swipes at WWE," because a lot of that seems a lot more motivated by people not wanting their precious WWE talked about in that manner. And I love a good fight, so.
Don't tell me what to do. I'll do what I want to do.
Yeah.
We're not going to have a show that's going to bash WWE for an hour and a half. But if we take 2 minutes to sit back and say, hey, man, that's fucking dumb.
Well, it's about context, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have to examine AEW in context. So
it's looking at the whole picture, not a bubble.
Yeah, this will probably be the last time on this episode that we talk about WWE, but
yeah, more than likely. I mean, we usually, just looking back, we talk about once an episode, because there's something that directly deals with what's going on in AEW that's happened in WWE. We might actually have a little bit later on, but it's kind of tying back into this, so it's all good.
BTE number 163. This is a private party. The episode opens with Matt and Nick relaxing outdoors by the pool. After appreciating the fine weather, Matt turns to his children and asks if they will wish their Uncle Nick a happy birthday. The kids reply, "Cero miedo." And I gotta say, the little boy nailed the Spanish pronunciation. Clearly a real Pentagon fan.
For sure, man. He's real down on it all. But it was, I love this whole little thing because, like, you know, they told their kids to do this, that's what makes it funnier. But it's like, you guys are being salty for yourselves, and you're putting on a show, and you're having the kids involved. Dude, keep it going, man.
Nick angrily took off his sunglasses and throws them into the backyard, which I thought was great. And then we go to the title screen. Out of the titles, we get to see Cody tie Matt's tie for him again. I love that they continue to show this. We've seen it more than once in the past.
Yes, and also now just talking about it, it was like, yeah, anytime we go do something fancy, Cody has to tie my tie. And so it's like, there's two sides of it. It's one is like, dude, YouTube, buddy, YouTube.
Yeah, tying a half Windsor, not super difficult.
I will say it's hard.
It's hard the first time. Come on, I mean,
it's different, but still, YouTube. Now, the funnier part of it is that it's only Cody who does that, and you know his own brother is like, "No, fuck you! Don't wear a tie if you can't tie it, you little bitch."
Oh man. They are at TCA, the Television Critics Association, right as the news for TV dropped last week. What follows is some behind the scenes for the photo shoot, again, that we discussed last week. And then we see some of the elite watching the official trailer on the TV before we zoom in, and it just kind of shows the rest of the trailer, which kills a little time on BTE more than anything. Next, we catch up with Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. They're at a bar at Daly's place that we walked by because I was like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, oh, that looks real familiar. I was like, oh yeah, that's that one in the middle.
Yeah, the Bucks recognize them from a distance and approach. Matt tries to make conversation when suddenly three large men dressed in all black step between them. The men remind the Bucks that this is a private party, and they're not allowed. The Bucks are just appalled by this. After all they've done for Private Party, in their anger, the Bucks decide to invite the security to a party of their own, a super kick party, but Private Party kick first. And the Bucks' reaction is strange. They say only that they want more. And then we cut to the promo card for Bucks versus Private Party at House of Glory High Intensity 8, which is set to be the final indie appearance for the Young Bucks, taking place August 9th. I think this is a really weird choice for their final indie appearance. You'd think they would choose someone who is not currently signed to AEW, but apparently every indie promotion in the world and AAA just likes recasting matches that are going to happen in AEW. So
sure, but I mean, you know, this one, it hasn't happened yet in AEW.
Sure.
Which is I'm fine with it from that perspective. Also, it kind of makes a lot of sense. I think the Private Party are big in this promotion.
Mm-hmm. Yes, HOG is one of their spots.
So that makes a lot of sense. As well as, you know, might as well give these guys a big shot of the send off, and you know, why not? I wasn't really upset with it. I thought it's a cool match. I mean, it's something, yes, we will definitely see in AEW at some point, but this is a good place for it, as well as gets them some interest and heat, because we'll obviously see some stuff from this on BTE and probably the road to somewhere, or some recap footage. So that also gets them some heat in AEW, and that's always a good thing, especially for the tournament that's about to start.
Yeah. Next, we cut to a conversation between CD, Frankie, and Jungle Boy. Frankie tells Jungle Boy that this is where the big boys play, which I like that. And if he thinks that him and Luchasaurus are a better tag team than SCU, he must not be very smart. Just then, Jungle Boy is hoisted into the air upon Luchasaurus' shoulders. Luchasaurus says, actually, I have a master's degree. Side note for people who don't know, Luchasaurus' master's degree is in medieval history.
Which is really cool, to be honest with you. It's not a great degree
Yeah, it's the kind of degree you get if you're going to become a professional wrestler.
It's the kind of degree you're going to get if you're going to be a professor.
Right.
But it's still it's like kind of a cool thing of a master's degree. If, perfect world had no need for money and could just go to school,
yeah,
I would probably get a degree in medieval history.
It just makes me want to have him on the podcast and just have a conversation about medieval history.
Right? Just so bad. Just sit there like we
Just
don't
not
ever
talk about
wrestling
wrestling
at all. It's 45 minutes of medieval history and then like 20 minutes of talking about when he was on Big Brother.
Kazarian and Daniels have
was on Big Brother.
Right, yes. Kazarian and Daniels follow this by having like a kind of a goofy Three Stooges fight, then only stops when Luchasaurus yells at them. CD says
was kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a roar. Yeah. CD says, we will continue this discussion at a later date. SCU exits and Luchasaurus, he looks up at Jungle Boy. He says, hey, if we ever fight like that, man, let's just break up. It was kind of a funny scene, but it was all right. In the next scene, CD is distracted by his phone, almost accidentally walks into the female locker room, but senior official Rick Knox makes the save and reminds CD that this is not an intergender match. Every week, this gag comes back, and every week we're like, okay, this is the last one they can do. And then they have another one.
With Joey Ryan too, but
yeah.
The stuff with CD and Jungle Boy, I think that's going to be our all out match. And I really like that.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah. CD realizes his mistake and compliments Knox on his dedication. It is funny that you can briefly see Penelope Ford laughing when the doors... Yeah, she is just dying.
The doors open slightly. Clearly, they didn't tell anyone they were going to do this gag, and she was just in there.
Yeah, like she was probably just wasn't expecting anything. She saw CD, was like, oh, hey, what's up? And then Rick just comes through, and she just dies laughing because it's so off the wall and weird, and it was a funny moment that you had to watch really closely to see.
Yeah. And that's kind of it for that one. I thought it was good. I don't know. It kind of feels like they've played this one out, but I say that now, and there's going to be another one on Monday.
We're going to get like 12 more of these.
Yeah. BTE mailbag. Let's talk about BTE mailbag. First up, Britt Baker. She begins to read a question that asks if she's gotten revenge on the Bucks for what they did to, and then she kind of trails off here.
Yeah, ...
Yeah, I tried to figure out what this was in reference to, but it could be honestly like fucking anything, and I wouldn't know it.
If there was like 3 more words.
Yeah, like
it would have been fine.
What they did to who or whatever, but she doesn't give enough information for me. I'm sure there's somebody at home who knows what this is in reference to.
Like even if I'm sure it had to do with something with Adam Cole, which is just obvious. But even if she had continued on that thing they did to
right,
stopped, that would have been enough of a context clue to like, oh, that thing, I can go look that up now.
That was my guess too, only because of what had happened with CD, right? That was in reference to something that had happened to Adam Cole. I don't really like that Britt Baker is on the indies kind of like cleaning up Adam Cole's unfinished business or whatever because they're dating. Like I don't really dig that at all.
Hey man, maybe he's just waiting out that contract.
I mean, maybe, but like,
hey, I can hope. Don't squash my hope
now. But I'm not. But I think Britt Baker should like have her own shit that she does, not just like, hey, remember that I'm dating that guy that works for the other company? To me, I'm just like, no, I'd like her to do her own stories and not constantly bring up this other fucking guy that doesn't work here.
It's also BTE. This is what we do.
Yeah. It is kind of funny though, I'll give him credit for it, but she moves on and she acted it fairly well considering what she was given. She moves on to a different question. The question she does answer concerns her concussion, how she's been recovering, and if she will be booked for All Out. Britt thanks everyone who has reached out. She is feeling great. The worst is behind her. She is not yet cleared, but she expects that she will be, quote, any day now, end quote. Regarding All Out, she chooses not to answer.
Yeah, because she can't.
Yeah, she'll probably be there though.
knows.
I imagine she will be there.
I'm not gonna say one way or the other. I know you just how concussions work. I mean, it takes a long time to get over a concussion.
Sure.
From a minor one to up to the the bigger boys.
You can't really rehab it either. So
no, it's legitimately it's just time.
Yeah.
And there's even the points like where you think you're fine from the concussion and you're just doing something 6 months later and you just go down. That's just part of it. You never really truly recover from a concussion. So if they end up and she's not able to do All Out, I'm not going to really be upset by that because it's better for her to take care of herself. So
that said, I will say
involved in some way.
I think if they had any reason to believe that she wouldn't be, the answer wouldn't have been, you'll just have to wait and see. The answer would have been, no, probably not. I won't be there.
That's fair, but it's also, this is wrestling.
It's
just like it'd be the same as like if it was wrestling, if it was hockey, they're all just gonna say it's like, well, we're not sure yet, we're still waiting.
Sure. Counterpoint. Better to disappoint now and surprise pleasantly later than lead on and then disappoint closer to the event.
And that's what I mean is like I think no matter what the outcome is, she will be involved in some fashion.
Sure.
She may not have a match or be taking any bumps, but she'll be there.
Next up is CD, who answers a question while getting in some pug time. A fan asks CD if he still performs in the Waterworld show at Universal Studios.
Such a weird callback because I was like, well, I was sitting there, I was watching this at work, I was on lunch, and I had my headphones in, and I'm just like, Waterworld. That fucking Kevin Costner movie?
Dude, Universal, they haven't had a lot of hits recently, okay?
No,
so
that's why they're revamping the entire park.
Yeah.
That Mario Kart ride, buddy.
Oh, yeah, you gotta have it. A fan, so they ask if he still performs at the Universal Studios show for Waterworld. CD proudly confirms that it is him, although he is not the full-time guy or the part-time guy. He is there very infrequently. He's usually there on Wednesdays. Ooh, that's gonna change. But at that moment, with it being summer, he's there even more often. He then talks briefly about having recently almost lost his left eye, but gives no details, even though that's like a way more interesting story.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, I was like, okay, did something happen at the ride where you got like clocked in the face or something? Because that's the way they made it look, especially with the picture that they showed afterwards.
Sure.
Or like a match that we're going to be talking about and recapping later because they just don't have the footage cut together correctly.
You're telling me none of those questions were what the fuck happened to your eye, But
well, if people didn't know about it,
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of strange. It was really funny him talking about the Universal thing because it's like, I'm not the part-time guy or the full-time guy. And it was just like, oh, so you're the guy that just randomly shows up in costume. Gotcha.
He's the fill-in guy, dude.
No, he's just like, I'm bored today. Here's my costume. I'm just going to go wear it at the park. And no one gives a shit because he's been doing it. It's really cool that he still is able to stay involved at the theme parks that he used to work at, even if it is just infrequently, because, if you can do a fun job like that and no one will, stop you from doing it because of work or whatever.
Right.
Keep doing it as long as you can. Have fun.
Yeah. Next, Chris Jericho answers a question after
as he stands outside of a Quick Trip. This was the funniest fucking thing because he pulled his phone up and you can see the reflection and then in his glass and just like, why are you standing outside of a Quick Trip recording this, dude? Just go in the bus.
After reportedly a lengthy negotiation process with Jericho's manager, lawyer, agent, accountant, and team, Jericho says that he looked through about 100 questions and most of them were stupid, except for this one.
That's fair.
Which asks, was Jericho's contract offered via a text message? Jericho acknowledges the joke. Of course, this in reference to the CM Punk sort of quote that we talked about last week. Then says that Tony Khan did not text him because Tony Khan does not have Chris Jericho's phone number, nor does anybody else in AEW.
The deeper down this rabbit hole that we got, the better it got. It was just like, wow. Wow. I laughed the whole time, but I was like, I had to rewatch it a couple times just to hear all of the things because it was so like you have your head shoved so far up your own ass.
It was clear from the beginning that he was making shit up, and then it just gets more and more apparent as he goes on.
Yeah, that's the best part is like Jericho just does this shit and he can keep going with it's kind of like an improv guy. It's like when you just keep going and keep getting is more funny and twisted as you go, and you just keep saying yes and building upon that. That's exactly what he was doing. It was like, okay, you're gonna have to stop at some point because you may fuck up, but man,
it's so great to see him being able to fully embrace like just being off the chain entirely, you know, for the first time in a very, very long time. So his phone number is only given to his inner circle. Tony Khan dialed Jericho's 1-800 number that he has set up for business inquiries. Tony Khan left a message on the line and received a message in return from Jericho. The message stated that if TK sent a private 747, which first of all, he may own a private jet, it's not a 747, to Jericho's personal airfield.
747 is like $300 million.
Fucking enormous too. Like you wouldn't own it as a private jet because it's fucking huge.
For perspective, that's what Air Force One is.
It's huge.
It's not bigger, but yeah, it's like that's not a jet.
It's like an Airbus. It's fucking huge. Yeah. And fly. So if he sends a private 747 to Jericho's airfield and flies Jericho to the Atlantis Resort in the Bahamas and puts Jericho in the $100K per night King Suite for a period of 1 week minimum, Jericho agreed to give Tony Khan 10 minutes of his time. At such a time, if Tony Khan gave Jericho an offer that he feels was appropriate, he would accept it.
But I don't think you can land a 747 there.
Although I don't know, it's frequented by celebrities, so maybe
I'm not totally sure, but I know Atlantis is a small island. You need a real long runway for a 747.
According to Jericho, Tony acquiesced, and during those 10 minutes, they hashed out a deal that netted Jericho an enormous sum of money and complete creative control over himself and all of AEW.
Yeah, that was the best part is like, I have a creative control, and which is, a typical WCW thing, but then it just keeps going. It's like, as well as the rest of the company, I'm in charge of everything. It was like, okay.
He says, quote, everything you see that's good in AEW is me. Everything you see that's bad is something that I'm not involved in because I only have so much time to spend at AEW. End quote. I love that. Just one of those things where he's taking credit for everything that's good, that he's just shifting the blame for everything that's bad. Classic
that's
sort of.
He wants his thank you.
Right. Yeah. Jericho then goes on to speak of his many, many philanthropic efforts for the people of Zanzibar.
Just like, what the fuck is this?
Jericho
created your own country now.
Yeah. Well, he says the people of Zanzibar, and then he goes Zanzibar. Like he couldn't think of the name at first. Jericho says he has to go now because a big semi-truck full of paparazzi just showed up to mob him. Because everyone knows paparazzi, they travel around in semi-trucks.
It's a quick trip.
Yeah. I thought it was great. I thought he did a super awesome job with it. And it's different than... Like, everyone's like, oh, you got cocky heels in the company or whatever, but, like, this promo is fundamentally different than, like, an MJF promo or something like that.
Yeah, because
like,
you don't have cocky heel, you have, like, batshit crazy.
Yeah, like, kind of bumbling idiot.
It's all the good parts of, like, Jericho's run in WWE where he was doing the list and the stupid idiot stuff, but with no... hindrance, and he's just making it up as he goes. It was a lot like the podcast he did last week with MJF, which was fucking amazing.
It was great. I still haven't. I want to listen to him with former WCW World Heavyweight Champion David Arquette.
Was that this week?
It was this past week, yeah.
Okay, keep talking.
It's on your list.
You must download.
In the final scene, Nick and Matt celebrate Nick's 30th birthday by announcing the on-sale date for the debut of AEW on TNT, which we'll talk more about in a minute. It already happened. They do a montage of diving board flips into their pool to prove the haters right. Not much to talk about there. Pretty straightforward. I did think it's funny that they're going back and forth between camera footage and like far superior GoPro footage now. It's like, just use the GoPro to do your stuff. I don't understand. No, not included in being the elite this week was a video shot at Daly's place where Janela got into another scuffle with his all-out opponents Darby Allin and Jimmy Havoc. After a...
That was a weird one. Was that... Okay, so I remember in Discord this week I posted a deleted tweet that Janela posted.
No, that was...
This was something different?
This was something different.
Okay.
After a short fist fight, the camera pans to show Mark Hoppus, Matt Skiba, and Travis Barker, the current lineup of Blink-182, and Hoppus shouts, "Again, Janela? What the fuck?" Which I think it was great to get those guys involved in it.
It continues the Fyter Fest joke.
Right, because they'd already been involved with Fyter Fest. I don't know how... tied to AEW they truly are, if they're just kind of game, for anything, but I think it's great kind of involving them in this way and making a joke about the fight with Enzo Amore at the concert, right? So
at their concert, yeah,
right.
I think they're probably just game with it. It's kind of like, it's similar to like the David Arquette thing. It's like they may be involved in AEW down the road, maybe. Mm-hmm. But even still, it's kind of like, yeah, they're famous, but they're also wrestling fans, and they probably...
Or maybe they're not even wrestling fans. They're willing to be involved with it, and someone was like, hey, they're making this joke about Firefest. Wouldn't it be... I'll get you in touch with them or whatever.
Yeah, that absolutely could be as well, and it's perfectly fine. That's a cool thing to do. Just even if they don't give a shit about wrestling, just that little bit of involvement of just, hey... Can you do this 5-minute thing? And they're like, most celebrities and band people are usually like, yeah, okay, cool, let's do it.
Well, that's a great thing about wrestling that I hope AEW does more of, because it's not about like putting Snooki in a match or whatever, but wrestling has to be like the Muppets. Like, it has to exist in the real world, you know what I mean? And the fake world has to exist in our real world. And it's not about having fucking Bob Barker or the host of the fucking Today Show on the show to do a segment or whatever. It's about these sort of real figures that existing and passing alongside these fake characters that you love, right?
Yeah, it's doing kayfabe correctly. Like,
right.
You're in the real world, but for this little 5 minutes, you're also in this little bubble of a fake world while the real world's still passing you by. And then after that 5 minutes is up, the bubble, it quote pops.
Right.
And the real world continues again as a whole. And it's perfectly fine. It's a good way. That's how you do it correctly. Side note to that, Bob Barker's coming in. I'm in, man.
I did, but the point being, wrestling is at its best when Mike Tyson shows up. You know what I mean? Or Dennis Rodman is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or David Arquette is there. Not when he wins the championship, but when he's there, Or you go, oh shit, Jon Stewart just hit somebody with a chair, right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, just little things like that. I mean, and I know part of that you will say is like, I don't want Stephen Amell involved, but I do. But just if they're dedicated to it and they're going to do it, and this isn't just some little bullshit one-off match or whatever,
right?
Then let's do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Jon Stewart's coming through and hitting people with chairs, or John Oliver's coming in and cutting a promo on somebody because reasons,
right?
fine, let's do
All
it.
it does is it helps people invest and helps sort of continue to suspend disbelief for that 2 hours that this thing is happening in this real world that we know, and that these characters that we know aren't actors playing characters, but in fact real life people.
As well as it brings in that other group of fans who isn't really watching this show.
I mean, I guess I don't think anyone ever tuned into Raw because fucking Hugh Jackman was guest hosting. They should have, because he's amazing,
Absolutely. But you can have people tuning into, AEW because John Oliver cut a promo on them on his show, and then he's like, and you're going to see me next week on AEW while I come in and talk to Tony Khan and tell him what a piece of shit he is.
I think it's more of a
which would be hilarious.
I think in this day and age, that sort of thing makes more of an impact after the fact, on YouTube and things like that, right?
Absolutely, but I mean, it does get people interested and involved and jumping in.
Yeah. Let's talk about the big news of the week. AEW on TNT tickets sell out the Capital One Arena in hours amid continued demand. This article comes to us from Alfred Kouna for Forbes. I'll start here. AEW's hot streak continued as the promotion has reportedly sold out the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. ahead of its television debut on TNT. The good news for AEW comes on the heels of the upstart promotion selling out All Out in 15 minutes, just 1 year after its historical sellout of All In. Demand for All Out was said to have exceeded that of WrestleMania, and the demand continued as fans bombarded AEW Twitter accounts with for tickets, with Cody, Brandy Rhodes, and others encouraging them to hang in there and keep trying to score these suddenly elusive tickets. Some were skeptical of AEW to continue its run of strong ticket sales, as unlike pay-per-views like All Out or Double or Nothing, AEW on TNT will take place in the middle of the week as opposed to the weekend in Washington, D.C., as opposed to a hotbed for fly-in crowds like Chicago or Las Vegas. Still, none of it mattered, as AEW managed to sell out yet another venue for yet another milestone show, with tickets going on sale at 12 p.m. EST and selling out hours later. As hot as AEW is, the promotion will not sell out every television taping, and it will be interesting to see just where they settle after the initial seemingly immovable honeymoon vibes subside. AEW's premiere broadcast will air on TNT at 8 p.m. EST. Notes here, no one seems to be sharing the actual sellout time, likely because it won't be impressive next to the previous sellout times, right? Three and a half hours compared to 15 minutes. When you put that narrative forward, then you're almost welcoming people to be like, oh, demand is diminishing, right? However, this is the biggest venue they have ever worked, with several factors against it. Again, middle of the week, not a fly-in place, right? The fact that they sold out at all, let alone in the just hours on the first day, is insane. Insane that they did this.
Yes, so there's two factors to it. Yes, it is absolutely amazing that they sold this out. It's great. It's not technically a sellout yet, because they are releasing production holds, and I'm probably reworking a little bit of the seating plan to add more seats in. But as of the initial release of tickets and the current stadium setup, it is a sellout.
Yeah, no, it's a bona fide sellout. Like, you can add more seats, but sellout only means you sold all of the tickets you wanted to sell in the first place.
Yeah. So it's absolutely amazing. It's great. I'm super down. What kind of funny is, I was, earlier this week, I was going back and forth about whether or not I was gonna, maybe I'll try to get tickets. And if I get a ticket, I'll go, because, it's on my birthday and it's pretty cool. And, I talked to Carissa about it, and she's like, we could do that. Mm-hmm. It's not really that bad, it's just a hotel room for 2 nights, and we can go up there. It's my favorite city. so on. And
there's cool shit to do in DC. There's the Smithsonian and all the fucking monuments and shit.
It's like we could go up on a Tuesday night when I got off work. We could fly back home Thursday morning, whatever. And during Wednesday, that is exactly what I would be doing. I'd be going to the Smithsonian.
Yeah, it's dope.
And I was just like, this maybe. And I was kind of talking myself into it and out of it. As it happened, I ended up having to go. As I say this like it was a bad thing, we had a company lunch thing.
Nice.
During when tickets went on sale, so I was like, I couldn't get to my phone and sit there on my phone,
right?
In front of the director of IT finance trying to order tickets. So like, oh well, I don't get to go to that. It's probably for the best, anyways. It saves me a lot of money, but I'm still sitting there like, I want to go. That'd be dope. That's a cool birthday present.
Well, the other thing, as important as it is for in production of the show, which really shouldn't guide our lives. Like, we're gonna do what we want to do and make this the best show that we can around that. But in the context of the television show, I think for this being the first television event, it's best for us to see it the way most people are going to see it.
And that was what was like also guiding my decision. I was like, this would be really cool to go to and really cool to be at.
Yeah.
But I need to see what the commentary is like. I need to hear the commentary. And like, I'll say it 100 times. Like, oh yeah, I'll go to the show and then I'll just watch the broadcast later. I won't do it. I know myself well enough to know, like, I'll say it and I won't do it. And then I'll be behind and it wouldn't make our show very good. So
right.
Like, no, okay, that's fine. On the flip side of that, the first time they come through Atlanta, I'm going to get tickets.
Sure. The first time they come up to Boston, I'll be trying to figure out a way to go, obviously. But
or closer to you. Yeah, it's like when they're around, definitely going to hit it up. But
this I feel like this first show, people are going to tune into this show, the people that listen to this show, that graciously spend their time with us every week. And if there's a problem with the audio mixing, if there's a problem with the commentary, if there's a problem with anything TV production wise, they're going to want to hear us talk about it. And if we're traveling, like, we really don't have the time to do that. Now, All Out, they're going to see that stuff. And if we hear about the comedy, we're going to hear about the commentary. And it's nice to be able to present things from the live perspective because people get kind of a different view on it. I think in the context of it being the premiere of the TV show, I think the best seat in the house for us in terms of this show is to watch it on TV like everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. For All Out, we will be live in the room. The flip side of that is, like you said, if something's up with the commentary or there's something fucky happening,
right?
You and I can sit through skim Discord before we ever sit down to record.
Yeah.
And we can know what's going on so we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But like with this TV show, like, no, we need as much of a time frame to sit down and look at the whole picture as possible.
Mm-hmm. Before tickets went on sale, AEW announced 4 events for the premiere episode of AEW TV. I really hope this is all that we know before the show.
The way I was reading the notes, this is a little confusing. It's 4 announcements for the premiere episode. They aren't actually events. Because I read through this.
Sorry, yeah.
They announced 4 new things.
Well, I didn't want to say matches because they're not matches.
Right. They made 4 announcements for the
4 segments. They announced 4 segments for the show. First, in the opening contest, AEW EVP Cody Rhodes will compete in a singles match against noted Panda enthusiast Sammy Guevara, which will be a great match between these two. And I think the perfect match to put on first. Cody Rhodes has almost completely rubbed the WWE stink off of him, I think, even for casual fans. And I think this sort of lapsed fan people are going to have heard about his success in Japan, are going to know him as Dusty's son, and he is a familiar face. It's almost like Lucha Underground premiere was Blue Demon and Chavo Guerrero, right? People knew Chavo, people knew Blue Demon. Like, you kind of want the person who opens the door for them should be somebody that they know, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, you've got Sammy Guevara, who's a young guy, good-looking guy, has great fucking matches is gonna have a great match with Cody. I think it's a really smart opener.
I agree. Yeah, it's like you said, he's rubbed that stink off of him from rolling through Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, everything he's done up to this point since he left the Stardust character. And when this was announced and we were talking about it in Discord, the first reaction to a bunch of us were like, oh, this is gonna fucking suck. But sitting back and thinking about it and like just taking off that perspective of and this is me personally, is like I didn't really get a good first impression of Sammy Guevara from Lucha Underground because he was so green. But
he was on the bad season too.
He was on bad, yeah. But that was also that when that was filmed, that was like 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
His match at Fighter Fest.
Yeah.
As well as his match at Fight for the Fallen. If I had one, I can't remember, but I think he did.
Yeah.
He's done good work. He's done a lot of good things. And that's a good spot for Cody to do after Sean Spears. It's a little jarring for me personally that they announced a Cody match when they have this big feud that they're building, and then it's a little strange to me personally, but sure. Cody versus Sammy Guevara, that's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be some really interesting spots in that match. There's going to be a lot of really good psychology. So I'm not upset about it. I was in the first 2 minutes because, I got salty. I'm fine. It's fine.
Well, I disagree with you that the reaction was that it was going to suck. I didn't feel that. I think it was more the reaction was just like, oh, they're treating this like it's a big announcement and it's kind of okay.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it. It was more of just like, oh, this is the first match that's being announced for the AEW TV show, and it's that. And
it's all right.
All right.
It's like, okay, that'll be a good match, but okay. It's I don't know that it's making me like, oh, now I got to get tickets, right? If it's not doing that, then why announce it at all this early, right?
On the flip side of that, the people that were planning to get tickets to this show and got tickets and still want to get tickets, the matches being announced is not going to have any bearing on that. Right.
I mean, especially with how fast it sold out and how many people were like, I was there the minute they went on sale and I never ended up getting tickets in the 3 hours, Yeah.
It's kind of the same situation that we ran into a bit with Fight for the Fallen, is that Ticketmaster sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only reason we got tickets to All Out is because we had multiple machines looking for it, right? So
we did. But it wasn't Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
it was the Sears Center's own system that they did a queue system, which is the way Ticketmaster should be selling all of their tickets. They choose not to.
Yeah. I have had some tickets go through Ticketmaster and be queued, but not all of them. Additionally, AEW wrestler Jon Moxley will be appearing in some capacity on the program. All it says is that he's appearing live.
Okay. I'm down for that. He needed to.
Good. He should be on the show.
Yeah, needed to be said. Great times. He is ripping shit in the G1 right now. So
he's having matches that people really like. He's doing promos that people really like.
So as long as keeping that in the mindset, and the people that are watching New Japan or that only watch New Japan, and it's like, oh cool, Moxley's going to be on the premiere of this. I'll tune into that.
He's great, dude. He's going to kill. I think we're just getting started with him. In terms of what people can expect from him. I think people still don't really understand how good he's going to be. Furthermore, the very first AEW Women's World Champion will be crowned on the high-profile debut episode. This is exciting. They're not doing a tournament for this. I don't think they have the roster to do a tournament for this, which is why they're not. But they are going to, apparently due to people's win-loss records in the past or whatever, put together a Women's World Championship match. I imagine Britt Baker will be in this conversation because her win-loss record's pretty high at this point.
I hope so.
And, I wouldn't know who else it would be, but it may be a high-profile new debut.
It's going to be hard to say right now until we see the fleshed out card for All Out, and B, actually see All Out to see where things fall.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be some sort of maybe they'll do a battle royal with women or something. I don't know.
They could still do a tournament just of a smaller size, like an 8-man or eight woman. Sorry,
right.
That would be an easier way to do it. Or I could see, sort of like what they did where Double or Nothing. 2 of the matches from Double or Nothing got announced very late in the game as #1 contender matches.
Right. Lastly, in what is likely to be the main event of the evening, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks will challenge Chris Jericho and 2 yet-to-be-revealed partners of his choosing. In regards to his partners, Jericho only had the following to say, quote, "Trust me, you're not going to believe who I'm planning on bringing in," end quote. The most obvious thing to point to here is LAX. LAX are free agents at this point.
Drummer.
What?
His guitarist and his drummer.
Yeah, that would be the most senile choice.
Just 2 of his band members. What's funny about this is one of our very close friends was like, "Oh, great! I've already seen half of this match." I was like, "No, you haven't." Like, it's Kenny and the Young Bucks versus Jericho, though. I've seen the whole match. Like, you've only seen Kenny and Jericho.
Yeah.
Now, given the Elite typically put on a very structured type of match, but until you know who those 2 mystery people are, you really can't say how much of this match you've seen.
Yeah, and I think it will be good. It definitely needs to be a tag team that he brings in, because I don't think that they have enough tag teams otherwise. And I'm racking my brain. I'm like, it's they got a Boy and His Dinosaur, Best Friends, Private Party, the Bucks.
It's gonna have to
the
be
Dark Order, the Rhodes if they want to use them. Like
the Rhodes will get used in the tournament.
Yeah, I imagine.
Just because I'm assuming, and this is my own opinion, my thoughts. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming this is gonna be a 16-team tournament, either 8 or 16 teams.
Yeah.
What makes me really think 16 is that the first round bye thing. So it's kind of going to be similar to the Dusty Classic, where you're going to have some put together tag teams that won't really be going far, but are just to flesh out the field.
Right.
And it's not really a big deal one way or the other. It's fine.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how you're going to have to do it. But they do need, maybe you could do 2 singles for this match. It would be fine. I wouldn't, for the trios match, it'd be fine. But 1 more tag team would really help things out. Flip side, 2 more singles would also really help things out company-wise.
Sure.
So I see either way, it's beneficial.
Well, you've got guys working tags right now that could easily do singles too.
Yeah, you do.
A lot of guys who could easily do singles who are working tags right now. But so you've got the Bucks, you got Lucha Bros, you got A Boy and His Dinosaur, you got Best Friends, you've got Private Party, Dark Order, so that's 6. And then you would think that they would need 7 and 8. I guess 7 could be Rhodes.
You just need 7. No, you do need 8 because
you would need 8 to do a tournament that isn't lopsided. But
you can't count Best Friends and Dark Order
because only one of them is going to get a bye though.
Right, but what's the point of giving them a bye and then throwing them into the tournament in the first round? That kind of, you can do that, you absolutely can, but that kind of just like, well, what's the point?
Right.
Because then that just turns into like, oh, okay, well that was just their first round match then.
That's true.
So you do need maybe 1 more. So LAX would be cool.
I mean, LAX is free agent right now, and they've worked with a bunch of those guys, and they'd be good. Yeah,
there's some built-in feuds there.
The other chance is that somebody comes over from AAA,
which is also Yeah.
But I don't know who Jericho would pull from AAA or it's some other old team that Jericho would be familiar with.
One of the things that you and I are looking at right now and that we kind of keep forgetting is AEW has a few partnerships, and that's definitely going to be playing into the television broadcasts.
Yeah.
So they're going to be pulling people from those partnerships. it just doesn't feel like it's a thing right now because, you know, with just doing these pay-per-view-esque events, they haven't really needed extra people.
Right.
But I think starting in TV, they're going to actually start relying a little bit on those partnerships as well as probably announcing some new ones, you know, things like that, which that falls into how they want to, you know, have, you know, rotating talent. So we'll see.
Hey, if you're going to All Out and you want to party with AEW fans prior to Showtime, Flip Gordon, in conjunction with Pro Wrestling Tees, is presenting an event he is calling All Outside Party.
Flip Gordon, though.
This event will be presented rain or shine from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Beer garden open at noon on August 31st at Hideaway Brew Garden right across the street from the Sears Center. Entry is free for all ages. Food and beer will be available for purchase. AEW merch will be on sale. A DJ will be dropping some beats. Frank the Clown will be in a dunk tank for charity, and Chris Van Vliet will do a live interview with Chicago's own Colt Cabana. Visit www.hideawaybrewerygarden.com for a map and directions. We'll probably check it out if we don't have anything else going on.
Yeah, I figured we'd show up at least to a portion of this, if only so that we could buy some of our merch before the event and then take it back to our hotel.
And maybe buy food at a cheaper price than it's going to be in the arena. But we can get food anywhere around there.
Yeah, that's an issue. We'll still probably end up buying some food items at the arena anyways, because we're going to be there forever. Yeah, I was like, this would be a cool thing to do. I don't really care much about what's happening.
Sure. No, I mean, if I never saw Frank the Clown again in my life, it would be too soon. And I understand that's the idea behind putting him in a dunk tank, but I'd rather just not acknowledge his existence at all.
Give me a boxing match where I get into a ring with him. He can be in full like protective gear but give me 2 minutes with him.
Yeah,
I'll be happy.
Yeah. Chris Van Vliet doing a live interview with Colt Cabana. That's fine, but it doesn't like spin my dreidel or anything like that. You know what I mean? I just don't care.
You know, if anybody that's listening is going to this, you know, reach out to us. You know, we'll be around. We'll have stickers and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll be around all weekend. We have a whole plan. We're going to talk about this in the future. Speaking of Chris Van Vliet has officially signed as a broadcaster with All Elite Wrestling, which is exciting. I think it's a good fit for him. I think with all of the interviews he's been doing, it's only like, okay, finally.
Fucking duh.
Right. Quote, I'm honored to announce that I am officially joining All Elite Wrestling on October 2nd for the first show on TNT. As a lifelong wrestling fan, this is a dream come true to mix my passion for broadcasting and pro wrestling as a backstage interviewer for AEW. Growing up, I idolized the larger-than-life characters in the ring and wanted nothing more than to be a professional wrestler. When I was 20 years old, I enrolled in a wrestling school in Toronto, but my wrestling dreams were put on hold as I chose to focus on graduating with an honors degree in communication studies and pursuing my other dream of being a TV host. During my senior year, I called every TV station in town and I finally earned an internship that led to my first ever on-air job. Every day, I drove 60 miles each way for that job. I'm sure that number gets bigger every time he tells this story.
Probably.
And worked part-time in the fish department of a pet store at the mall to make ends meet.
I would like to work in the fish department. Fish are cool.
Yeah, man. But you got to feed them.
So, partial side note. Do you know what comes with getting an honors degree at college?
No, because I have not been to college.
Well, that's fair. But like, do you know what you get out of that?
Jack shit.
You get a nice little ribbon to wear around your neck with the rest of your shit when you graduate. Like, there's nothing. Your degree doesn't even say graduated with honors. Like, there's no reason to fucking do this.
That and $1.50 will get you a cup of coffee. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's benefits like in college because you get to register for your classes early sometimes, but why go through all that extra work?
I mean, true. That has since grown into a 15-year broadcasting career and a YouTube channel where I'm still blown away that I get to have conversations with some of the biggest wrestling stars on the planet. I have loved working as an entertainment reporter for Decode Drive TV on WSVN over the last 5 years. These are all like fucking Twitter handles, so give me a break. My co-hosts Sharon Sandoval and Lynn Martinez are the best in the business, as are the producers, editors, photographers, administrators, studio crew, and everyone else at Channel 7. You have all helped me grow so much as both a broadcaster and as a human since I moved to Florida from Ohio in 2014. I am so grateful to have been able to share incredible stories on TV and also to travel the world and report from some of the biggest red carpet events. If you're reading this, I've got 2 words for you. Thank you. I couldn't have done any of this without you and your support. And here's the best part. We are just getting started. Now, I know if you're listening at home, a lot of that was not AEW related, but I figured on the occasion of the man getting signed by All Elite Wrestling, I would not edit his statement and I would let him thank the people who helped him get there this one time, because he only gets signed one time, you know?
It's a real good opportunity to just, I got 2 words for you. Suck it.
Right. I got 2 words for it. Fuck you.
Yeah, this is to actual broadcast people and fans, not wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Wrestling fans will be like, yeah, dude, we're in.
Right.
Let's do it.
Right.
I'm happy for this. I think he'll be great in that role. His interviews that he's done with wrestling guys are really very well done.
Yep.
I'm hoping that this allows him to continue with his YouTube channel and get some more really good interviews with just people he hasn't had a chance to work with yet.
He's got that sort of news anchor thing about him where like he's likable but not memorable, you know, like he, you know, you're there and you don't hate him immediately, but he's not going to overshadow the performers in any way with his personality.
Right. And he's that newscaster level of it's a comfortable voice to listen to and face to see, so you're fine with.
He knows how to roll with people too. If you watch his interview with MJF, like it's not easy to just straight man like that for as long as he did, and he did.
Yeah, that's a really difficult thing to do, just to keep going with it. And he was smiling and laughing a bit, but he still kept going with it. My personal hope is he's only backstage for a little while, and they move him to the commentary booth, because I think he would be very, very good at it.
Yeah, I don't think it would take much, but I hope that. I mean, Golden Boy put out a rather cryptic tweet a couple of weeks ago, so we'll see if that did anything, because I thought Golden Boy was fucking amazing.
He was real good, dude. I loved every minute of his commentary.
Additionally, Marco Stunt has officially signed with All Elite Wrestling. Quote, "It's my 23rd birthday and I can't think of another way to celebrate than by announcing something huge. I would like to announce that I have officially signed with AEW. Thank you to everyone who has supported me and everyone at AEW. This is just the beginning," end quote. That was his whole statement. So
who the fuck puts 23 on their fake ID?
Well, I'm not even gonna mention the fucking pro wrestling douche bro who like had a hissy fit about this on the internet.
I'm just fucking with it. I am perfectly fine with Marco Stunt joining this, but I'm gonna give he looks like a 12-year-old. So.
Go ahead.
This is the one that really clicked in my head after watching BTE, that they're of the SCU match with Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, Marco Stunt, two trios.
That is true.
Awesome.
That's very smart. As I said in Discord, I think Marco Stunt is great because Marco Stunt represents a body type that they don't have and that WWE doesn't really have either. Because Vince hates people that aren't fucking 6 foot tall and cut and gorgeous and shit like that, right? And I don't, contrary to what heel in character MJF and not heel, not in character Jericho said the other week on his podcast, like, I do not think it is a requirement of a professional wrestler, nor do I think it's very wise for every single professional wrestler to be jacked and tall and super fighters. I think those characters should exist, but wrestling is all about being able to sort of put yourself in a character. That's why Spider-Man is such a huge superhero, is because his whole body is covered in costume and he's kind of average body type wise, right? Like, we look at Mexico where they have the little people that dress up as sort of smaller mascot versions of pro wrestlers, and kids fucking love it. And people who have body types that aren't 6'5" and jacked, which is most of us, should be represented in wrestling and should feel like, yo, this is my guy, because he's like me. And wrestling is at its best when it's like that. I mean, that's the popularity of Mick Foley, is that Mick Foley feels like a guy that you might know, but he's in there and he's kicking ass, right?
Yeah, he's the everyman guy.
Right.
Just looking back at that stuff, like, when I was a kid watching WCW, there was a reason why, Bam Bam Bigelow and Big Van Vader, and even in WWE, Yokozuna, there's a reason why those guys were all so popular. Yeah. And it's because, yes, they were different, but they gave on very memorable performances, and they weren't the prototypical Schwarzenegger guy.
Well, and the argument for this is that, well, they're a pro wrestler, they're supposed to be portraying an athlete, so
sure.
So they should take their job seriously, and their job, part of that should be working out. But I think the emphasis on this only really comes from WWE's insistence on it because of Vince's particular interest in bodybuilding, which is a fact. He tried to fucking start a bodybuilding league, right? So that's an interest of his. But if you look back Harley Race, who passed away, God rest his soul, this past week, did not have a bodybuilder's physique.
If you
Dusty Rhodes did not have a bodybuilder's physique.
If you look back 70s, 80s, 90s wrestlers, the bodybuilder guys were the exception. Yeah. It was a rare case. Now, yes,
Ric Flair didn't have a fucking bodybuilder's physique ever.
Yeah. You had a guy who was in shape, but he was not, with a six-pack and just rippling muscles. It was just a guy who was in shape and could do this shit. That's why wrestling was so popular in those time periods, because you had the thought of, like, anybody could be a wrestler because it doesn't matter what you look like. And that's something that's a great aspect of the industry that needs to come back to it, which is, to me, is very odd, especially of the time that Vince has been in control. That those early periods, he had those people there, like, Yokozuna and Flair and all of these guys. It wasn't until, like, really that Attitude Era where, honestly, and this is really shitty and a bad thing to say, when Vince got hooked on steroids, that's when all this stuff really started.
Well, it's funny because
it's continued since then.
Because pro wrestling zeitgeist, and even within hardcore fans, there were a lot of hardcore fans who would call themselves hardcore fans, who post on the message boards every day, and all they watch is WWE. Like, that's all they fucking watch. And they like to talk. They either shit on everything else, or they like to talk, oh, I agree, Kenny Omega is the best in the world, and they've maybe seen 2 Kenny Omega matches. You know what I mean? But they love WWE, but they're like, no, hold on. I watched WWE, but I don't really like it. No, NXT, I like NXT. And it's like, well, it's the same shit. It's just, a different writer. but pro wrestling for a long time has been catered to one man's taste for longer than a lot of the fans of the show have like fucking been alive at this point.
Yeah, like it's, if you sit back and look at it, it's like the Monday Night Wars essentially ended in 2000-ish.
Right.
No, that's 19 years.
So my point is, you can't blame anyone for feeling like WWE is pro wrestling and Vince McMahon invented pro wrestling, because as far as they're concerned,
Like in those fundamental years, like when they're 5, 6, 7, 10 years old, it's just been WWE. It's all you know. It's all you know.
Right.
It's not been until recently where we've had this real resurgence.
Yeah. So I think it's wonderful that AEW is kind of reaching out to these sort of other body types and being like, it's okay, and really focusing on small guys, and their stars are the Bucks and Cody, and like, again, these guys are all fit, but like, they're not cut up. And I actually think there are certain performers who are kind of too cut up for what their characters are. Like MJF's character is that he's an arrogant rich guy. He's been getting really cut lately, and I'm like, I don't know that helps your character in a big way.
Yeah,
but hey, if that's what he wants to do,
I can see the other side of it, though, is like the reason why he is getting cut and everything is because he's this arrogant rich guy.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to have a fucking job. He can go to the gym every day and spend 2 hours in the gym.
The final signing for the week, referee Bryce Remsburg has officially signed with All Elite Wrestling.
This was a really funny moment in Discord this week because you went full third person on it.
Yeah. I had written, good for Bryce. He's worked his ass off. And Jonathan was like, are you talking about yourself? I was like, that would be great. That would be a hilarious sentence to say about yourself. Like, hey, good for me. I worked really hard.
I had a great week.
Quote, exciting life news. As of today, August 1st, 2019, I am officially under a multi-year contract to All Elite Wrestling, both as a referee and an office employee. As my dad remarked, not everyone gets to live their dream, and now I am incredibly fortunate enough to be one of those few. I have had nothing but positive and constructive interactions, both personally and professionally, with everyone associated with AEW, from Tony Khan to Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes to the ring crew and beyond. I believe in this vision, and I am proud to be along for the ride. Since falling in love with pro wrestling in 1991 and starting training in 2002, many have helped me get to this point, in specific two people. First, my wonderful wife, who tolerated this hobby for years and allowed me to achieve what today represents, and Mike Quackenbush, who trained me and still teaches me something almost every day. It was his vision of Chikara Pro Wrestling that allowed me to meet and work with Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson and put me on this path. No doubt this would not have happened if it weren't for Mike. I do and will forever love independent wrestling, exceptionally its DIY spirit. Wherever I go, it will be with me forever. As far as getting rid of me on the indies, it might not be that easy, and it might not happen as soon as you think. So stay tuned and know...
Especially?
He probably did, okay. Probably used exceptionally... They're probably
fucked him.
You probably can use that word that way, but it's not common to use it that way. I'm saying if you looked up a definition, you could probably use it that way.
Okay. I feel like autocorrect fucked him, but yeah, I see where you're saying.
So stay tuned and know that I deeply appreciate all the kind words and support you have given me over the last 17 and a half years. I have very few dates open for the next couple of months, so don't hesitate to reach out. I hope you'll continue to support me and AEW Thank you, end quote. But great for Bryce Remsburg, one of the hardest working referees in the business, and one of the great pulls from the indies talent-wise. Great that he's also gotten a job in the office, so he won't need to have a second job in addition to working as a referee. If this thing is going to work, if we're finally going to have an alternative to WWE again, then it's going to be kind of like a rapture for the indies. And
it's already started, but
well, yes, it has been like a rapture for the indies, but we're going to see more and more of these sort of staple. Rick Knox was the PWG referee, right? And they yanked him out, and that's how it's going to have to be. This is we've talked about it before, but the trade that we're making in order to have legitimate competition to WWE is that we're basically going to lose the indies as a result.
Essentially, yes, but it's kind of like all other industries. It comes and goes in waves,
right? Where
the indies will die out for now.
The indies will still, I want to make it clear, the indies will still be there. The idea of having these really great, really talented, big workers on the indies, I don't think is going to be there.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the problem that we've run into with the indie circuit right now, is that you have these real big performers, real big names, not just at random promotions because a guy's going on tour through them, but that you are building gigantic names in these indies who are becoming massive superstars and going just into different territories and doing it. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. You're going to be seeing guys, it's going to be a slower build of you. If you want to really do this and you want to get really popular, you're going to have to work at it, not.
Well, I also just think generally the indie promotions and the people who work in the indie promotions will be sort of less notable. And when they do become notable, they're going to get bought by one of the two companies pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have some indie promotions, which we've already started seeing it. You're going to have indie promotions shutting down because
Wrestle Circus and
WCPW,
where they had changed their name, but they both closed down this past week, right?
Yeah. So you're gonna start seeing it just because there's a lot of these indie promotions that just made a name for themselves of being this gigantic promotion because they would just bring in all of the big names to this place, and that's just not gonna happen anymore because these guys are not available.
Yeah,
and the existing indie promotions that have been around for a couple years or even longer and have taken the time to okay, we want to do wrestling, let's be homegrown and build their talent, they're going to be fine.
Well, the indies are essentially in the same place Netflix is going to be in December when Disney puts all their catalog up, right? Netflix used to be this great hub where you could see all of the great things from the world, right? And then eventually it's going to be we don't really own anything except for the things they do own, but
it's kind of already there, to be honest with you. Netflix used to be the end all be all. If you wanted streaming media, everything was on it, and now
you kind of got to have Hulu as well.
Yeah, because you're gonna have, if you're looking for something specific, odds are it's probably not on Netflix anymore.
Yeah.
It may have been 3 or 4 years ago, and that's where you watched it or part of it the first time. But now it's man, it's not happening anymore. Especially with how these companies are buying shit up and revoking their streaming rights from places like Netflix. In the news a couple of months ago was the big thing of Netflix signed a fucking $100 million deal or some shit like that for the streaming rights to Friends.
Yeah.
And Time Warner is already reneging on that.
Wow.
Because they're making their own streaming service and it's going to come out towards the end of the year. And that's going to be one of their showpieces. And it's
shocker, people still want to watch Friends,
I'm watching Friends, but it's not something I'm going to go out of my way to watch. It's on TV, cool.
New merch hit Pro Wrestling Tees this week for Private Party, MJF, Darby Allin, and John Moxley, respectively. Check it out if you're interested.
I did not see that MJF had a new shirt.
Yeah, it's not much better than his old one, but it's slightly better. Speaking of MJF, by the way, we're going to talk. StarrCast took to social media this week to announce a very special meet and greet with the Salt of the Earth MJF. Now, we haven't talked a lot about StarrCast stuff because, again, they're not technically affiliated with AEW, but they are going to be there, and we just got to talk about it.
This is too good to not talk about.
The MJF meet and greet is advertised for Friday. It will cost you $150 plus a $9.13 fee. So $160 basically. StarrCast was legally, this is the description text.
Yes.
StarrCast was legally obligated to offer this meet and greet for Mr. Friedman on Friday from noon to 3 p.m. Mr. Friedman demanded to charge fans more money for his meet and greet than any other superstar at StarrCast. Mr. Friedman also required us to share this disclaimer verbatim, quote, "No touching or direct eye contact," end quote. Any infractions will be subject to an additional tax to be determined by Mr. Friedman. In theory, this should include your photo with MJF and an autograph on your item or 8x10. Good luck.
Well, they are 8x10, but like it's worded is like, this, it's like it's worded as it came from a lawyer, which makes it better.
Right.
And it's
just geniusly written.
It's that, and man, he on Twitter this week. Oh God, he has been.
Yeah, some guy freaked out. He was like, "Oh, you'll rip off fans for a joke." I don't know how you could see this and not immediately go like, "Oh, this was all MJF's idea," because quite frankly, Conrad isn't this clever.
Absolutely, 100%,
and just doesn't know the character enough to do this.
Just not that clever,
right?
That's really what it boils down to.
So him freaking, MJF retweeted it and said, "It's not my fault that you're poor." He said to another guy, "Hey, newsflash, I don't want to meet you. I'm offering you the opportunity to meet me if you want to give me $160, but I do not want to meet you."
Yeah, it's like, I don't care.
Right.
And this is my personal opinion. I'd bet if the people that do sign up for this, any money that MJF does make to this is probably going to get donated to charity because it is a gigantic joke.
Right.
But oh my God, this is fucking amazing.
If I was the type of guy who walked around with $150 that I wanted to give to someone just to call me fat, I'd probably go to the doctor first.
You can give me $150.
Right. And then maybe I'd give some money to MJF. But it's just so, again, just a man who fully understands who his character is and where he's going. And for a guy who's been doing this for 3 years, it's unbelievable. But we can't spend the whole show gushing about MJF. That's for our companion podcast, the MJF show.
Coming next week.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about TRIPLEMania. It was a fun night. I watched all of it with English commentary, although I didn't watch all of it intently. It was... let me just go through the relevant AEW news.
Before you get there, I'm going to go ahead. This is the best TRIPLEMania production-wise that we have seen in about 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, very few hitches. And actually watching on Twitch was better than watching on television broadcasts. So
you could hear the commentary. It's going to cut out for 10, 15 minutes, which is what happened, I think, the first year you paid for it.
Yeah, Mike's, not Mike, Matt Stryker's audio would kind of fluctuate in volume significantly throughout the night, but
it wasn't where it was so low you couldn't hear it.
It wasn't like I fucking bought it and then it cut out on me. I had forgotten that happened. I'm still mad about that.
Yeah, and that happened like 2 years in a row. Then they went to Twitch and it was like, oh yeah, well fuck you guys. Now it's free. It better goddamn be better. So production wise, it was really, really good. Sadly, this is probably gonna be the last time there's English commentary for any AAA event.
Yeah,
which is really very unfortunate considering the next 2 events they have are in the US. Also, probably won't be on Twitch, so it's fine.
Sure.
Other than that, I'm going to flip it back over to Bryce so he can run through his notes. I didn't watch all of it. I fell asleep.
Cody, luckily I don't sleep. Cody, Kane Velasquez, and Psycho Clown won their trios match. Kane was actually really pretty good in this match. The moves that he did were smooth. I mean, granted, there wasn't a lot riding on him. He was one of 6 men in the match, right? But I was actually fairly impressed by his work in the match. Yeah. And according to the announce team, he plans on continuing as a luchador for the foreseeable future.
Awesome. He has a really cool mask. I think his mask is really cool.
Yes.
He doesn't need to wear it, but he has a cool mask.
I thought it was weird that he wore the mask for the whole match, and then at the end of the match, he took the mask off. But then they did photo ops all around the ring, so that was the reason why, is because he's a celebrity. I did expect him to be in better shape than he was. He really wasn't in great shape for being somebody who comes from where he came from. But
okay, I come for that. So one reason why he is so good is he comes from an amateur wrestling background.
Sure.
So a lot of this stuff is very, very similar to what he's already done, and it's easy to transition from.
He's the man who beat Brock Lesnar, as commentary would not let us forget.
As well as, MMA, but like amateur wrestling and pro wrestling are very similar in the basics moves of the move sets.
Sure, it's pretty easy to come over.
The flip side of that is like his, body shape is. He fought at heavyweight, which really didn't have a weight limit,
right?
Unless you were Brock Lesnar size.
Yeah.
So it's not like he ever really, cut weight. Because I think he walks around at like 220, 240.
Right.
And unless you're like Brock Lesnar or Shane Carwin, where you are 300 pounds of muscle, that's when you have to cut weight as a heavyweight.
Sure.
But yeah.
Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid triumphed over the Elite in what I thought was actually superior to their Fyter Fest altercation, not just because of the finish with the Luchas actually going over. Afterwards, Kenny challenged Phoenix to a future match in AAA for Phoenix's AAA Mega Championship, which is sure to be a hell of a match. Phoenix accepted, wouldn't be surprised. He said here in AAA, not here in Mexico. I imagine that will probably be at Madison Square Garden.
It's either going to be Madison Square Garden or the LA Forum. To be honest with you, probably both.
Yeah.
My guess is Kenny goes over in Madison Square Garden, immediate rematch at the LA Forum, go back to the status quo.
He then said AEW is better than AAA, which having watched this full card, he's not wrong. I'm not going to get into my misgivings about AAA. People know my misgivings about AAA. Join the Discord if you want to read my misgivings about AAA. But he's not wrong. AEW is better than AAA. Not AEW related, but do yourself a favor and watch Blue Demon Jr. versus Dr. Wagner Jr. Awesome Lucha Underground style, just bloodbath, brutal match. These two beat the shit out of each other. They hit each other with beer bottles and cinder blocks and a fucking hammer.
Yeah, there's a fucking hammer, man. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Between two incredible just legends of Lucha Libre. And it just ended in this historic moment of the last match of Dr. Wagner Jr. that we know he officially retired at the end of the match. Now, what happens now, who knows? But official retirement at the end of the match. I think
the second time.
I think he didn't retire. He didn't retire at the end of the match versus.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't. He did
not at TripleMania.
Listen,
he did say he was retired.
Listen, I am a wrestling expert. I'm a host.
Okay, fine. Fuck you. He still came out and released a statement that saying he was going to retire, and then he came back 3 months later as Ray Wagner.
Okay, he didn't do it on the show. He did it on the show this time.
I corrected myself. He did not retire at TripleMania that year. He did retire in the midst of his vacation where he was on a boat looking like a fucking god.
Look, man, he was on a boat. He's incredibly handsome, even bald, but a great match. Two absolutely legendary masks.
Fucking ponytail.
Dude, looking better with a ponytail than either of us will ever look, though, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, there's a reason why I'm not going to grow my hair that long.
Just really worth watching. Two awesome, just legends of Lucha Libre having a really just beating the shit out of each other, and having a really awesome, just grounded fight match. I loved it. It made the whole price of admission worth it for me. And I think it's a match everybody should see, even if the version you find online is right now the TV version. If you can get the Twitch version, watch that. The camera angles are much better.
You can, if you have Amazon Prime and you have Twitch Prime, and for whatever reason you haven't used your free subscription, you can use that and then watch the VOD.
Or you can get it other places,
internet,
I'm sure.
Like, there is a technically free way to do it if you haven't done that.
Right. The road to All Out number 3. The episode opens with MJF talking directly about how much his best friend and mentor Cody Rhodes means to him. Cody was the first person who believed in MJF, and MJF will never forget that he is damn proud to be a Cody Rhodes guy. MJF moves on to his next point, which is that he's sick and tired of all these dumb, fat marks who have historically referred to him as a brown noser. MJF angrily denies that he is a brown noser and then unbuttons his blazer to reveal that he is wearing a tie with a giant picture of Pharaoh on it.
I'd buy that tie.
MJF says that Sean Spears' relationship with Cody Rhodes was not genuine, but parasitic from day one. MJF says he would never, in a million years, quote, do something like that to somebody that I considered a friend. Again, this seems like fairly careful wording. Quote, Sean Spears, I've said it once, I'm gonna say it 1,000 times, is a piece of shit. Fuck Sean Spears, end quote. MJF finishes by saying if he has a chance to step in the ring with Spears again, he will knock Spears out cold. That's just awesome. It's just awesome. Just the fact that he said Sean Spears is a piece of shit. Fucks Sean Spears. I love it.
Call back from that one moment in BTE where they were at Cody's pool,
right?
And they were teasing that announcement,
yeah,
before Double or Nothing. So man, that was so funny. I laughed my ass off at this.
Next, we see a fantastically produced montage of Cody training, intercut with a montage of Tully and Spears flying into Atlanta and visiting AEW or Cody's offices. It's kind of hard to tell at this point.
You and I we did talk about this. I'm kind of with you. If there is an AEW actual office, it's in Jacksonville.
Well, they've said that.
Yes, I think what we are seeing is Cody's office because he is doing business stuff for AEW, so it's kind of like a satellite workplace. It may very well be just it's just an office building, but this is definitely for Cody specifically to do business so that he's not flying back and forth to Jacksonville all the time. It's kind of very cool to see that Cody does want to be that involved in the business side of things, that he has his own office. And then also funny is watching this video, and as Tully and Spears are walking through Hartsfield, and I was like, oh, been there. Know that feeling. That place sucks.
Just watch, if you ever get the chance, watch movies with somebody who's from Georgia. Atlanta specifically. When we were down in Jacksonville, we watched Baby Driver. Baby Driver, like so many films recently filmed in Georgia, but doesn't even try and hide it. And Jonathan was just like, "Yep, I know there. My girlfriend goes to school there." Or like, just
it was a lot of fun. And plus, some of the spots where they're like, "Okay, that doesn't work because that's not close enough to be together for that to work."
The montage ends with Spears and Tully entering the boardroom. As always, the whiteboard has some interesting teases on it. I'm just going to go through these, the different things written on the board. Women's World Title is written. And none of these have checks next to them, but they all have boxes next to them.
Just go through and then we'll talk about them.
Penta / Phoenix contracts. Havoc TNT standards / practices. And then in all caps, more blood plus guts. Number 5, Chad Glenn with 2 question marks after it. Chad Glenn is the name of AEW's director of finances. And number 6, Harrington dress code. Penta and Phoenix contracts being on there is
that's teasing, but we know it's happening.
It's got to be happening soon. It's just so tantalizing.
Yeah,
that it's
that's
on
just
there.
them. That's the thing is like at this point, after all the Road 2 videos where they've had stuff on the whiteboard, as well as the shit like when Matt and Nick are fucking with people with their clipboard.
Right, October 2nd and things like that, all these things.
It's like we know that these are things that are happening. They're just fucking with people. Women's World Title, that one was quickly done.
Right.
Penta and Phoenix contracts, that'll probably happen post All Out or in the very, very near future.
Yeah.
The funniest one to me was Havoc TNT standards and practices. That makes me feel like they've had to already have a conversation.
They have to. The idea here is that they're saying they have to have a sit down with Havoc to let him know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable for him to do on TNT.
Yeah, which just makes me think that the TNT people, which for people that don't know, TNT, CNN, all Turner things, that's all headquartered in Atlanta. The offices are very, it's all right there. So, which is also funny with Cody's office being in Atlanta. Guarantee someone's had to come over to Cody's office and sit down and be like, yeah, so you're coming on TV and that's fine. But we need you to follow these standards and practices because we've seen some information on the internet that one of your guys carries a staple gun around.
Well, standards and practices is interesting because it can be organized in some companies and very unorganized in others. Specifically, I know Comedy Central for the longest time had like the weirdest standards and practices where like it would be like a different person each day and it was kind of just like up to their sort of feelings about things.
It was their discretion on everything. Yeah,
right.
TNT very, very static with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just really funny.
Harrington dress code is the only one I don't understand and couldn't find any information on.
That one is confusing. I think that was there on purpose as a just teaser to completely tease people. More blood and guts. That's talking about the thing Vince said. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. The Chad Glenn one is if my bet is it has to do with the over the budget battle royale, and they're like, dude, we need people, fucking pay them.
Yeah, I those last two are the confusing ones. Here they introduce a new character though, Mega Perek.
Megan, but yeah, Mega.
No, it wasn't Megan. It was Mega.
Character.
Who is the chief legal officer for the Jags and now AEW, according to what we're led to believe. I didn't look up to see if she's actually that. That seemed a little weird to me. Her wording makes it seem as though her relatively short stint as a pro wrestling legal consultant has already been an experience, to say the least. We see Nick Sobek.
She is the legal counsel for the Jaguars.
That's wild when they do shit like that.
I Googled her name, and the first thing that popped up was the Jacksonville Jaguars website, and she is the senior vice president and chief legal counsel. So it's like Tony needed a lawyer. Hey, are you busy?
He already had one.
Yeah, it's like, hey, are you busy? Can you come with me for about 45 minutes?
We see Nick Sobek, Mega Q, Spears, and Tully make a call to Cody, and we see Cody's hand ignore the call at the gym. Cheekily, Mega states that in all her time as a sports lawyer, this is the first time that she's ever had to get a deal signed in person because it's 2019 and most people just do this stuff electronically now, which seemed like kind of a dig at Tully.
Yeah, oh, it was. There's that, but it's also like football contracts, especially like those first round draft picks. Those aren't done digitally. That's done in person.
Sure.
Maybe not all of the people are there together in person,
right?
But, that was just a funny moment to me. It's like, oh yeah, the old man has to see it done in person.
At Mega's request, Tully combs through the contract. He has only one stipulation, that Cody only be allowed one Nightmare family member at ringside. Cody takes a shower. He drives to the office. He calmly walks into the boardroom, signs the paper, glances at Spears, and walks out without saying a word to him. Spears.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Are you sure you don't want to read this?" And no, it's fine. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, "I've signed these before."
Yeah. There's a very interesting stipulation. I see where he's coming from, where Tully's coming from.
Right.
But it's still, that's...
Well, the Nightmare family has gotten involved in Cody's matches in the past.
Yeah, but I mean...
DDP and Brandy and a lot of people have gotten involved in his matches, so I understand it.
Yeah, I see. I understand. What way I'm looking at is like, it's a very clever thing as the old school wrestling guy to be saying that, as like, if Sean's only got one guy and that's me, he's only getting one person too. So we're making this even. That's just, it was so very methodical and clever, is that just that old school wrestling guy is like, no, we're not doing this entourage thing.
Spears clearly expected more. Tully says, relax, this is not Chicago. We wanted his name on the contract. That's the next step. And that's the end of the episode. I do think he only gets one thing is interesting. Brandy on social media made it seem as though she feels it's going to be her. I think it's going to be MJF. And I do not think MJF is going to... I think MJF is working for Tully already.
Probably. That would be such a good twist to everything. If we already knew that Dustin wasn't going to be at Dragon Con, I would probably fight you and say it's going to be Dustin. But no, man, it's probably going to be the way they've been doing these promos with MJF and how involved he's been since. They're
tying MJF so intrinsically to the story that it doesn't really make sense for it not to be MJF.
Yeah.
And so MJF there at All Out, and in my feeling, will likely betray Cody and join as him and Spears on a faction that will be helmed by Tully as the sort of emperor of these sort of group of Darth Vaders.
Kind of like the anti-elite in a way.
Kind of, yeah. More of like a dangerous alliance type thing, really.
Yeah, but it's so smart and so playing the long game kind of storytelling that it's the kind of thing that's going to start now, and it's not going to come to a head for like a year or two, but it's going to be continuous battles back and forth of things like people joining maybe even not even joining the faction, but them just causing the elite matches, things like that, where it's just like building the anger and that storyline, which is like really the old school wrestling thing of building a storyline for a year and paying it off, not in 3 weeks and then it's paid off in a month.
Yeah. I think that's probably the play that they'll go with, and I think it's a good play. I see no other reason to continue to remind us that he's so important to this story if they're not going to do that. But that's pretty much all I have to say about it. YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars, just like Meltzer, because it makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy.
Too sweet, motherfucker. Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite if you want to stay up with us on Facebook. If you want to get at us on Twitter @Seeing the Elite. But if you really want to talk to us, if you really want to be a part of the crew, we've got a bunch of new friends over in Discord this week, and you can be there too. tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite to really be a part of the family. And we thank everybody who's been so supportive and talkative and just become like a new friendship over there. It's been awesome. And everybody who's been listening with us week after week after week. I don't think Jonathan and I can put into words enough how much the success of this show has completely floored us, and how much we have tried every week to create a show that is worthy of your time, that respects your time, and that gives you a lot to think about when it comes to AEW. Podcasts, as always, can be a wonderful outlet where once a week you get to have a conversation with two friends when maybe you don't have friends that you can talk to about AEW because it really hasn't taken the world by storm, and regardless of how much we may love the product, there's still a stigma towards wrestling. It's an uphill battle, and it's going to be a long time before I think even if the product's really good, you're going to be able to say like, yeah, I'm a wrestling fan to people you don't know really well.
You're kind of like you and I, and you get to the point where you just don't give a fuck anymore.
Right.
Which that also pays off, because then you go to, run some errands and you're wearing one of your AEW t-shirts and you have a bunch of people like, dude, that's a sweet shirt. Love that show, man.
Nice. Yeah. And I think, if it's done right, then we can get there, but it's an uphill battle, and it's all Vince's fault. Now, again, just thanks to everybody for giving us really just the time of day, for letting us into your lives every week. We really appreciate it. Find us on Discord. It's always so nice to hear from everyone, whether you get at us through Discord or Facebook or Twitter, or if you leave a review on your favorite podcast service. We do read them, and it does truly make us feel too sweet. Now, I don't have anything else for these people. Jonathan, do you have anything else you want to say before we go off the air?
I do. If it is in your wheelhouse, try and get some tickets to see Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. It's going to be a great movie.
We will see if it's going to be a great movie. I love Kevin Smith as much as the next man, but his last fucking 3 movies have been pretty fucking terrible.
Well, Tusk was meant to be terrible.
Okay, just because you meant to make a bad movie doesn't make it a good movie.
When he's on his wheel, I mean, he was trying things. It was great. I like Tusk for what it was, but
Yoga Hosers.
Yeah, we can't. Well, let's not talk about Yoga Hosers. Either way, this, even if you go in and the movie sucks, you're still going to, if you're going to one of the tour stops, you're still going to have a fun evening. It's a fun time. They're doing Q&A after the movie for some shows are going to be shorter than others due to timing and, second shows. But, go hit it up. Check it out. If you don't want to go to the tour stops, see if you can see it at the Fathom event release, and just go to the movies and see a funny movie with some funny cameos.
I think Kevin Smith, by his own admission, would agree with me when I say I don't think he's a fabulously talented director, but I think it's wonderful and should be celebrated when somebody who loves movies as much as he does gets to make movies.
Yeah, and makes movies and gets to just hang out with his friends doing what he loves. That is something that's everybody needs in their life.
Yeah.
As well as rekindling some old friendships that went away for a very long time.
So I agree with that. Other than that, we're going to get out of here, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us on Seeing the Elite. And as always, go out and change the world.